Welcome to the Okie Woodsman channel. Today we have Brent with Stinger Attachments here, and he has a beautiful load of attachments that we're going to talk about. Brent's been traveling throughout the Midwest visiting established dealers and potential new dealerships, and he wanted to meet up with me here today, meet in person. We've talked on the phone, and I'm just super excited to have you here.
Likewise, I appreciate taking the time, and it's good to meet and work with you.
I'll just tell you this, when he drove up, I was just super impressed with this load of equipment.
Most of these products are going to a home to one of our established dealers, and in the process, as I stop at some potential dealers, it's just a good way to demonstrate our product and gain some interest and knowledge, brand awareness of what Stinger Attachments is.
I want him to go ahead and talk a little bit about what he's got on the trailer here, kind of talk about the different types of products, what they're used for, and one of these looks real familiar. You may have seen it on my channel. Brent, this is the unit I have, right? The CROG, which stands for Compact Rock Grapple, right?
Yep, Compact Open Rock Grapple. Basically what that means is this is an open-sided grapple. You've got bolt-on plates, which is an option for smaller product or smaller logs, and that is the miniature version of what we call our ROG, which is kind of what established the company and kind of gained fame, 10, 15 years ago in the grapple industry. What we've got on our trailer is also, this is our CCG. So it was our first product that we used to enter into the compact tractor market. And kind of the goal here was maintaining strength, but in a lighter weight. So this and the CROG both use AR 200 material, which effectively gives you a lot of strength. It's a premium grade material, but in a lighter weight package. So that helped us to achieve that 350 to 450 pound weight for most compact tractors. Smaller versions of the CROG will be as light as 260 pounds for some of the walk-behind skids and some of your 10, 15 horsepower tractors. And so the CCG has done really well for us in the compact market, but also just in general in the design and the popularity of clam grapples. So one of the other products I've got on the trailer is what we call our CG, and it's basically the big sister to the CCG. And this will take over into more or less the skid steer market. We can do different mounts on any of these products, but this is just a little bigger, taller, beefier, 36-inch grapple opening compared to 45-inch grapple opening. Still built out AR 200, still bulletproof. It'll go over 100 horse. And then I have another one not on the trailer today. We call our CG XD, which is again another version with a 60-inch opening, and it goes up to just thicker AR material so we can get into the utility tractor, row crop tractor, wheel loader market with that 30,000 pound wheel loader and on up to 45,000 on an even heavier version.
Cool. So one of the cool things that I like is when you're looking at one of these pieces of equipment, whether it's at a dealership, online, or on a video like myself, or the other day I even saw one rolling through my small town of 7,000 people. What's cool is they put these numbers here, and that stands for the width, right? And that's on, is that pretty much across the board?
Yep, that's correct. So if you look on the other side, CG, that's the model.
Okay.
And then 75 it's 75 inches wide.
Okay.
So pretty much all of our models kind of go under that theory. It's the model name,
okay,
and then the size of the grapple.
I absolutely love my grapple because he touched on it here just a moment ago, but he was talking about the weight of the attachment and what its intended usage is for. Yep. So it is entirely possible with skid steer quick attach to purchase a grapple that might be too large for your tractor. If you put too heavy of a grapple on there, meaning it's built for a large skid steer, you're losing capacity on something like my 25 horse Coyote.
So piggybacking on what Joe just said, when you call into us, whether it's a customer or dealer, kind of a step we take is what's your machine? We know, or we look up lift capacity, flow capacity if needed, and basically find the product that will fit your machine, but also what you want to do.
Okay.
So as we look at a machine like Joe's, where we've got that 35, 40 horsepower range, we know lift capacity is it'll vary, but just say, for example, somewhere in that 2,300 pound range, then we know that you're not going to want a 1,200 pound grapple on it. And so this goes back to about a 450 pound grapple. So if you've got 2,300 pounds of lift, then effectively you take that minus the 450 pounds, and that's the weight of total product that you can carry.
Yeah.
We've got, you know, tractors that will have a lift capacity of 850 pounds, and so a 350 pound grapple will work on them. But then we've got some smaller versions of this that maybe we convert to a single grapple that we could get down in that 250, 300 pound range that might just give you a little bit more lift capacity. So the first step is that. Again, in the skid steer market, which is kind of where the attachment industry had started, lift capacity is not as much of an issue, so it wasn't as much of a consideration as has became in the compact tractor world.
Okay.
And so now what you wouldn't want to do is you wouldn't want to put this on a 100 horsepower skid.
Sure.
Wouldn't expect it to stand up. And a lot of the cheaper foreign-made equipment, that's what they get into, is a lot of it is built for that lighter duty stuff, and people may not know that when they put it on the machine. So when you call in, as an example, and we say, you know, we've got a skid steer, then that's when I'm moving you to maybe the ROG or one of the other models of grapples that's built for that machine. What we want to do is we want to send a product out that you won't be limited by our attachment. You'll be limited by your machine first.
Okay.
We want our attachment to do everything that you can do with that machine and not be limited by what's on the front end of it.
Awesome. I can tell you right now that out of all the grapples I've used, and I've used them on tractors and skid steers, I find that my CROG attachment, this 54-incher on my Coyote CK2620, is a really great balance between multi-use. I'm able to use it to pick up brush. I use it often as a bucket to carry things around the property, so that grapple is staying on my machine all of the time. And I just really enjoy using it. Brent just mentioned skid steer type grapples, and so let's go ahead and talk about this here.
So this is our ROG, and this effectively is kind of what entered us into the market, 15 years ago, known as the Stinger name for about 10 years. But this is the most versatile grapple on the market. Everybody has their version, and what it is it's the open-sided rock grapple. The reason we call it open-sided is these plates are removable. 90% of the time you're probably going to have them off when you want to get big logs, big piles of brush. Where these come in is if you want to do firewood, it'll gather baseball-sized rock and sort and sift dirt and bark out of it. So when you're doing smaller product that you maybe don't want rolling over the edge, that's where you would use these. Maybe if you've got some smaller timber, not the real huge timber, sometimes there's some advantage to getting a closer pinch point. But overall, this is the most versatile style grapple used for logs, brush, firewood. We've got guys moving hay with it. Just like Joe said, when it's on your machine, you're probably not removing it for anything other than like a pallet fork or a tree puller or something different, or just raw gravel or small gravel or dirt. This will do way more in terms of versatility than what a guy thinks of, and we hear something new every day.
Basically, as long as I'm not moving dirt or fine gravel, this is what I want to move it with. Whether it be firewood rounds, split firewood, logs, brush, branches, it just does a fantastic job. I always forget using my compact tractor how small my bucket is, and when you take a look at a bucket like this, it just puts things into perspective of just how much more capable a larger machine like a skid steer really is. And I love this. They build everything up in Minnesota. Brent, do you prefer that customers call you when they're looking at purchasing a grapple, or is all the information online that they need?
So we try to provide all the information we can online to answer every question. However, we prefer a customer calls us because there are variables to what the machine is, what the capacity is, and maybe different varying levels of customer knowledge. So we welcome the opportunity to have a conversation with a customer to identify what they want to do, what their machine is, find the best fit for it. And then there's also factors of what couplers do they need, whether they've got a third function, whether they need one, and we can help guide them through that process if they need one, or we can also help them identify what couplers we send it with, because we want to send it with the right couplers so when they get this attachment, All they have to do is hook it up and go to work. You know, we also figure out shipping, so we ship all over the country, so it depends on where it's going. You know, and we've also got some dealers established throughout the country, so sometimes, you know, the local dealer might be the best fit too. So again, you know, we return every call. We try to focus on product quality and customer service, and we welcome any opportunity to always have a conversation to help make sure a customer's getting exactly what they're wanting.
That's perfect, because when I ordered my Stinger grapple, I actually sent pictures to Brent with a ruler on the couplers on my Coyote tractor to make sure that it was a seamless, you know, as soon as I took delivery of it, I was able to plug it in and hook it up and start using it that day. Another part of talking to the customer about what their specific application, what their type of equipment is, what brand their equipment is hydraulic hose routing.
So generally speaking, these are going on the CCG as an example, compact tractors, which they're pretty much going to be all a very similar configuration. So our standard hose length works for that, the center hose exit, and then it's just identifying couplers. Okay. However, this grapple can also go on some smaller skid steers. So in the event we put it on a skid steer, we would take that center routing, put an elbow on it, and bring it over to a left or a right hand exit, so to get the hoses out of the way so they're not being pinched in the plate or the cylinders. And then the same, very similar to this style grapple, to where it exits here and goes right up to where it's hooked in, to minimize hose additional length, but also hose pinching and anything like that.
One thing that I really like is I've seen on different attachments before where the hoses are just everywhere, sticking out, up and down, left and right. All of the hose management on these is really nice and tidy. Everything's as tucked and as protected as possible while still being easily serviceable.
Piggybacking on what Joe said, that is our goal, is to have hoses never be tangled. You've got to have enough slack that the cylinders and the grapples can rotate up or down. As we look at this ROG grapple, and all of them are the same, but it's made so we can do a left-hand exit or right-hand exit. We've got shallow 90-degree fittings for skid steers, so that way when the grapple's open and you tilt it back, you're not hitting your couplers, which is an issue with a lot. And so our goal is to make this as problem-free of a grapple as possible, so you can just go to work day after day with it and it'll last, in theory, a lifetime.
I want to quickly talk about the materials used. I know that when I initially spoke with Brent, he talked about they used different materials in different locations on the grapples because it doesn't make sense to use the same material everywhere.
So depending on the product, so our traditional skid steer lines, we use a grade 50 material, and it is American-made steel. So there are some differences in quality, even when you're looking at grade 50, if it's American versus foreign steel, you know, the carbon content, different things like that. So what I can say is we use a premium quality steel in the grade 50 being American. The higher carbon, you don't develop stress cracks as easy, things like that. As we focused on the compact tractor lineup, then we moved into an AR200. Some guys will use an AR400, but kind of where we're at is the AR200 gives you the best balance of strength in a lighter weight capacity, but maintains the strength to be effective in terms of pricing and weight, kind of that best combination. So again, when your focus is maintaining strength but in a lighter weight package for that tractor to lift, that would be the reason that we switched to that material. And then kind of as we move up again into this full-size CG, we still maintain the AR200 in that as well. So again, we've just got that added strength to go up to that higher horsepower, and we could switch to a grade 50 here, but again, we've got an 850 pound grapple, and in grade 50 we'd probably be talking about 1,200 pounds. So again, we're just trying to find that best balance to material, price, strength, longevity, all of that in hand.
Gotcha. It's really interesting. Something, if you're not into fabrication or don't know about metals, there's a difference. You know, some metals you can't really bend. Some of them are more brittle. We all know that with knives and chainsaw chain. That's why it's important to select the right material in the right location. You want it to be strong, robust, something that's going to be hard wearing, like the cutting edges.
So the grade 50 will stick throughout on the grapples, okay, and the AR will stick throughout. Okay. If we look at, you know, cut edges, wear points, things like that, where it's necessary to go with the AR200, AR400, 500, then we would place it there. But what I would say also is The points on here virtually last a lifetime, unless you're scraping cement every day, which is not really what, you know, when you're in the woods or you're in trees, you're generally in dirt, maybe some rock dirt mix. So it's going to take a lot of wear, back dragging, and they're built to do that. They're built to kind of dig up roots. So effectively, they're going to last a lifetime.
Because of the broad range of equipment, brands, and placement, because not every third function is placed exactly in the same location, when I took delivery of this, the hoses were a little bit tad short for where my dealership placed my third function. And I knew that I was likely going to be wearing or pulling on those hydraulic hoses, and sure enough, it happened. I called up Brent, and they were able to get me new hoses relatively quickly with a little bit longer length.
So kind of in this journey with Joe, what we had is we identified, you know, what he had for couplers, what he needed, standard third function. His third function here is mounted a little higher than most. A lot of them are mounted down closer to this cross tube. So we've kind of calculated a hose length that works for 99% of the applications. But in terms of the situation here, it was just fine when you rolled the grapple back. It was fine when you rolled it straight down, but this curls back a little additional, so it really stretches that hose. So what we found is the hoses could reach, but they were being stretched a little tighter than we wanted to when you rolled it all the way forward. So what we did is we just sent him a set of hoses that were just a little bit longer, simply just had to unhook them here at the center exit point and then just hook the new ones on, sent them with a sleeve. Doesn't happen every time, but if it does, we want to make sure that it's right and it's not something that's going to be a hassle down the road.
And swapping out those hoses was super easy. It was just a couple fittings here. I want to say it was a 3/4 inch open end wrench I used right here. I made sure I traced down the top hose. I just put them in the same location so my buttons were in the same orientation as they were originally, and it went really well. If you encounter a problem, these grapples have a 2-year warranty on them, which I think is pretty darn amazing. Because when you talk about attachments, people use them hard and they abuse them pretty hard. And what they're going to be able to do is assess what happened with it and identify whether or not it's a warranty issue or not. Now, the cool thing is if you do have a hose issue down the road outside of warranty, they know what length they need to put on these. They know what fittings, you know, if there's an angled fitting, a 90-degree fitting, what size, and everything. And so they're a great source to get hydraulic hoses should you ever snag a hose down the road, and they very well likely will be less expensive than your local Napa or O'Reilly or whoever else makes hydraulic hoses in your area. I think that's a win-win situation because it's always nice getting a part that you know will fit when you need it. The other day when I was cleaning up all this mess back here, I really missed having my grapple just using forks, bucket, and manual labor. This thing is an absolute lifesaver. I really appreciate Brent coming over here, visiting us here at the Okie Woodsman channel. It was just really neat just seeing all those attachments on the trailer. They look good, the quality's fantastic. Brent is super knowledgeable, and if you are looking for one of these pieces of equipment, make sure you visit their website. You can learn a lot, but then give them a call if you want to know specifically about your machine and if you're ready to pull the trigger.
Well, thanks, Joe, for your time. It was great to spend time with you.
Yeah.
And appreciate all your help with our company.
It was great to meet you. Thanks for watching the Okie Woodsman channel. If you want to know more about Stinger attachments, I will put links down in the description.